Are you ready to test your skills and have your patience pushed to the absolute limit? Today, we will bring you the top 10 hardest games ever created. Brace yourself, it's going to be a bumpy ride. At number 10. Sifu is a third-person action game where you play as a young kung fu student on a quest for revenge to avenge the murder of their family. The game is known for its challenging combat, which requires players to master a variation of kung fu techniques, including punches, kicks, blocks, and dodges. Players must also be aware of their surroundings and use their environment to their advantage. Another unique feature of Sifu is the aging mechanic. Every time the player dies, they age and their health bar decreases. If the player dies too many times, they will have to start over from the beginning. NANI? The aging mechanic adds a new layer of challenge and strategy to the game, and players must be really careful not to die too many times. It forces you to learn from your mistakes and try and adapt. You can't keep abusing the same techniques. At number 9, we have XCOM 2. Released in 2016, this game did of course come out quite some time ago, but it should definitely not be slept on. If you've played Baldur's Gate 3 recently, this turn-based action game might be something up your alley. The player commands troops in the field in a series of turn-based tactical missions. Between the missions, the player directs the research and development of technologies that they recover from alien technology and captured prisoners. In addition, you have a base of operation where you manage your finances and monitor and respond to alien activity. XCOM is a challenging game, but it's also very rewarding. It is a game that requires you to think strategically, and there is a real focus on strategy and making difficult decisions. However, you can always save, reload, but I'm not judging. The game is also very replayable, and there are many different ways to approach the mission. At number 8. Super Meat Boy is a tough-as-nails platformer game where you play as a living blob of meat who must rescue his girlfriend, Bandage Girl, from the evil Dr. Fetus. The game is known for its brutal difficulty and unforgiving gameplay. Each level is packed with traps, enemies, and obstacles that can kill you in one hit. You need to use your quick reflexes and precise platforming skills to survive. Super Meat Boy is also known for its unique and creative level design. Each level is just different from the last, and they're all packed with crazy challenges. You'll have to wall jump, slide, dash your way through each level, and you'll need to use your wits to solve puzzles. The game is also known for its sort of retro aesthetic. The visuals are simple, but also super charming. The soundtrack is excellent, and it features a mix of upbeat and catchy tunes. At number 7, we have Returnal. Returnal is a roguelike game, which means that each playthrough is different. The world and enemies are procedurally generated every time the main character dies, and she restarts at the loop at the beginning. She must explore the planet, collect resources, and defeat enemies in order to progress. I love the random and fast-paced nature of this game, and I was literally sweating trying to kill the bosses. It's super difficult. The game actually reminds me of an old school game called Geometry Wars with all the colours and shapes, but with enough tenacity and luck, you can make it through. I'm not even into roguelike games, but this was amazing. At number 6, we have Nioh 2. Nioh 2 is known for its challenge and difficulty and Souls-like gameplay. The game is set in Japan during the Sengoku period, I probably completely butchered that, 100 years before the event of the first game. The player controls a half-human, half-yokai protagonist who travels to Japan to seek a cure for their curse. However, the protagonist soon finds themselves caught up in a conflict between a human and the yokai. Players must use the skills and learn enemy patterns to defeat enemies and progress through the game. Nioh also features a variation of weapons and armor which players can customize to suit their playstyle. The game also has cooperative multiplayer, which can somewhat trivialize the game if it gets a little bit too hard. To further help you out, you can also yokai shift, which is sort of like a bunkai in Bleach, granting you new abilities and powers. At number 5, we have Elden Ring. Elden Ring is known for its open world design, challenging combat, and deep lore. Players can explore the world at their own pace, and there are many different ways to approach each challenge. The game also features a variation of weapons and armors which players can customize to their playstyle. Enemies are tough. Even the most basic enemies in Elden Ring can just one-shot you and kill you. You got to be prepared to block, dodge, and attack strategically in order to defeat enemies. Of course, like any other Souls game, Elden Ring does not have any difficulty setting. This means that all players must face the same level of challenge regardless of the skill level. The only reason it's not really high on the list is you can summon other players into the game to help you out. So that does trivialize bosses, and I must admit, I did that a few times. Next on the list, we've got Cuphead. Cuphead is a run and gun action game with unique art styles inspired by the cartoons of the 1930s. You play as Cuphead and Mugman, two cup brothers who defeat a series of challenging bosses to repay their debt to the devil. The game is known for its unique visuals, challenging difficulty, and jazzy soundtrack. Each boss fight is unique and requires players to learn the boss's patterns. Cuphead can be played in single player and co-op. It's a great choice for fans of classic arcade games and cartoons. Don't underestimate the difficulty. This is effectively the Dark Souls of run and gun games. Third on the list is Getting Over It. Getting Over It is a notoriously difficult game. Players must use a hammer to climb over a mountain, and any wrong move will send them back to the beginning. Here are some things that make the game in particular quite difficult. Players must use the mouse to move the hammer, and honestly, it looks a lot easier than it actually is. On top of this, there are no checkpoints. If you make one wrong move, you're done for.
Oof, sorry about that.
At number 2, we have Sekiro. Sekiro will face many enemies, including fearsome bosses, mercenaries, and demonic creatures. Players must use a variation of combat skills such as swordplay, dodging, and parrying to defeat their foes and protect Lord Kuro. You have to learn the timing of enemy attacks in order to block and parry effectively. Parrying attacks deal significant damage and stuns enemies, giving players an opportunity to counterattack. One of the things that makes Sekiro so difficult is that it does not offer many ways to make the game easier. There's no difficulty setting, and you can't just grind in the background and become over level. Instead, you have to learn the game's mechanics. Regardless of its difficulty, it is a very rewarding game. At number 1, we have Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden games are action-adventure games that focus on fast-paced combat. Players control Ryu, a ninja who fights demons and other supernatural threats. The game features a variation of weapons and abilities that players can use to defeat enemies. These weapons can include swords, kunais, ninpo, or basically magic attacks. You have to use your environment to their advantage, such as walls to deflect enemy attacks or to perform double jumps. These games are particularly challenging for the following reasons. 1, we have responsive but unforgiving controls. The controls in Ninja Gaiden are very responsive, but they're also very unforgiving. If the player makes a mistake, they are likely to be punished severely. In addition, there are limited resources that players have to carefully manage. The game starts out challenging and it only gets harder. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more exciting gaming content. Until next time.